everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Rachel Takeman and I'm trying to better myself in 2020 by tackling a new goal every month and tracking it all through YouTube videos. As you may know already, my November goal is to improve on ethical, sustainable, and clean living. If you haven't seen last week's video on clean living, click the link in the corner of this screen. And if you haven't yet, click the subscribe button down below and the notification bell next to it so you can follow my journey. This week I'm going to be talking all about ethical living. As I said at the beginning of the month, by ethical living I mean making choices to buy fair trade and cruelty-free products and to shop local. I have learned a lot about ethical living and consumption in the last few years. I've learned even more this month, and I'm sure I still have a lot yet to learn. But let me share some of the main ways I have been focusing on ethical living and want to improve on ethical living. One of the first ways I learned about ethical consumption and fair trade products was from a store called 10,000 Villages. This store sells handmade products from creators all over the world, and they ensure that the workers are paid a fair wage for the goods. This is the purpose of fair trade, to make sure workers are paid fairly for their work. 10,000 Villages also sells fair trade coffee and chocolate with brands like Equal Exchange, Divine Chocolate, and others. There are other shops like 10,000 Villages, but I left the link to shop online at 10,000 Villages in the description below. I have been much more conscious about buying fair trade coffee and chocolate these last few years because of 10,000 Villages. I also love going there to buy gifts for others rather than buying something off Amazon, but I'm still not perfect and I still turn to Amazon most often. One of the best ways to become more ethical is through the purchases we make individually. Big corporations do not always make the right ethical decisions, but we as consumers have purchasing power to support the businesses who do make ethical choices. Supporting small and local businesses is the easiest way to do that. Rather than going to Target to buy your clothing, go to your local boutique. Rather than going to Hallmark to buy cards, buy homemade products off of Etsy. And rather than going to the chain grocery store in your area, go to the farmer's market first. There are so many decisions we make with spending money that a lot of times we don't even think about, myself included. Many times I'll choose the easiest way to buy or literally just the first store that comes to mind without considering where I want my money to go. For example, recently I learned about a wooden debit card called Tree Card that reforests the planet with your spending. 80% of their profits go toward planting trees. I never even thought to look into the ethics of banking. Many big banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Bank of America support the fossil fuel industry. These days there are so many options for banking, especially because most banking is online. So why not research your bank and determine if you can make the switch to a socially responsible bank? I've attached a link in the description to a NerdWallet article about socially responsible banks if you're interested in learning more. So I think this video is more about what I want to be more conscious of rather than what I've already done to be more conscious of my consumer decisions. But part of making the change is doing the research, and this video has caused me to do a lot of research. The main way that I researched ethical living and I want to improve on ethical living is with my clothing choices. Recently, I have been learning a lot about fast fashion and the harmful effects it has on the environment and on communities. Fast fashion is clothing that is cheaply made and is not made to last. Since fashion trends change quickly, the idea of fast fashion is that there is no need for the clothing to be quality made because the trends will pass. Often, in order to make these articles of clothing at an affordable price, the people who make the clothing are not paid at a fair wage or work in unsuitable conditions. This includes stores like Forever 21, Romwe, Shein, Wish, ASOS, Topshop, H&M, and many others. Sustainable or ethical fashion is the opposite of fast fashion. It involves considering the longevity of the article of clothing, the effects on the environment, and the conditions of the workers. There are 5 main aspects to ethical fashion. The first is water usage. We need fresh water for drinking and agriculture, but clothing production uses a great deal of water. Ethical brands are cutting back on how much water they have to use to create their clothing. The second aspect is hazardous chemicals. The dyes and finishes that are involved in the production of clothing can be dangerous for the workers as well as hazardous to the environment where the clothing is being made. The third is the lifespan of the product. Ethical brands aim to make products that will last a long time, both in the quality of the product and the style, so that the consumer can buy less. This also applies applies to thrift stores, clothing rental services, and other options that allow consumers to reuse, upcycle, or borrow clothing instead of buying something brand new. The fourth aspect is waste. It goes without saying that when you have rapidly changing fashion styles, it creates a ton of clothing waste as people buy new clothes year after year and throw away the old clothing. With ethical fashion, products will last longer both in quality and style and will not need to be replaced as often. This can also involve repairing garments rather than just buying a replacement. And finally, the last aspect of ethical fashion is agriculture. Pesticides and other treatments that are used to create the materials used in clothing, such as cotton, can be harmful to the farmers and to the environment. Ethical brands are trying to go organic in their processes and in their material selection. Fast fashion is something I have just recently learned about, and I'm learning more about now. I love shopping at thrift stores and buying clothes from others on sites like Poshmark or eBay. This is a great way to keep clothing out of landfills. Another way I want to work on reducing my personal clothing waste is by reusing my own clothes. I always donate my clothing to thrift stores when I'm done with them, which is great, but I actually have a large pile of clothes to donate right now. I've lost over 60 pounds in 2020, so a lot of my clothes are too big at this point. But I'm very creative, and I want to see if I can reuse some of my clothes that don't fit using my sewing machine. I've seen a lot of TikTok videos of people making new clothing styles out of their old clothes, and I'd love to try that with some of my favorite pieces that just don't fit anymore. Buying secondhand and buying clothes from small businesses is the best way to avoid fast fashion. There are lots of bigger clothing brands that do have ethical missions, eco-friendly practices, and fair wages for their workers. But the absolute best way to make sure that the money you're spending is going to the right place is to support small businesses. So, if you have a small business you love, own, or otherwise want to promote, leave a comment down below with a link. Lots of people have created Etsy shops during quarantine or started selling on Instagram or Facebook. So drop a comment below so everyone who views this video can see the whole list of ways to use our consumer power for good. I hope you guys liked this video and found it informative as well. I myself am just now learning about fast fashion and the complexities of using my consumer power for companies that I believe in. But every step we take towards supporting ethical business is a step in the right direction. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Right now, my focus is making sure the clothing I purchase is ethically made and sourced, but what should my next focus be? Leave a comment down below if you have more tips for me, ways you have focused on using your consumer power for good, or ways that you want to support ethical businesses going forward. And make sure to leave a comment down below with the name of a small or local business you want to support and promote. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up button down below and also press the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. Tune in next week for my final video on ethical, sustainable, and clean living. I hope you guys have an awesome week and an awesome Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next week.